Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome to another episode of AntiSocialMurderClub. This is episode 6.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Episode 6. We're a little late this week. Look, we had a lit weekend.
A little too lit.
We're still recovering. I'm still lit right now.
As usual.
Per usual. In
Right.
order to get me through this podcast, I need to be a little turned.
A little smidged.
How was your weekend, Nia? What is it, Tuesday? Damn, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. We're a little late, guys, but like Mara said, we had a pretty busy weekend. We had a cookout at Z Crib.
I had a wedding to attend.
Yes, you
Not
did.
my own, but it was
One day.
way too much socializing for my own sake. My brain was just like, get in like a room by yourself and just stay there for the rest of your life.
You need an introvert's vacation, so you just hung out in your room.
Yes.
I feel you. I should have took a cue from you, but you know, I made it work.
Life's life.
Yeah, had to make it work. Had to go to work, you know. So this week we are doing murder cases from Philadelphia.
Philly or Pennsylvania?
Mine started in Philly.
Yeah, I think mine was a little bit in Philly, but overall I think PA. Yeah, it was like outskirts.
Okay. Well, we got on this topic because our homie, my best friend of the podcast, Ashley, gave us these ideas. She spent a lot of her college years in Philly, and she found a bunch of cases that she thought was interesting. She shared them with us, and we picked the two that we thought were the best.
So shout out Ashley. This episode is dedicated to you.
To you, boo-boo. So
you better like it. Rate it 5 stars.
Yes, you better comment too. But yeah, so I guess I'm going to start this week. And I'm starting with a serial killing. Well, not really. They had 3 victims, but it's a killer duo. Father and son, Joseph and Michael Kallinger.
I think it's Kallinger. Y'all know we can't pronounce nothing here.
Mm-hmm. So, most of my research was mainly on Joseph because Michael was a minor at the time, so they didn't really have as much information on him. But let's get started. So, as I stated, they are a pair, and this happened they did murders, rape, burglary, between 3 states. Mm-hmm. And basically they would enter homes posing as salesmen.
Salesman?
Salesmen.
Are you drinking? I don't know what's in this cup.
A little bit of cranberry juice and ginger ale.
And vodka.
Yeah, so they would enter homes and pose as salesmen and terrorize their victims, okay? So I'm going to get started with a little bit of backstory of Joseph. His childhood was pretty bad. He was born as Joseph Lee Brenner III on December 11th, 1935 in a Philadelphia hospital to Judith and Joseph Brenner Jr. But he was given up for adoption at the age of 1 because his daddy abandoned the family. So his pops was a deadbeat.
Ain't shit.
So, he wasn't adopted until 3 years later on October 15th, 1939. So, they didn't find any information on what happened to him while he was in the orphanage, but hopefully...
We can only imagine.
Hopefully, at least that part of his life was calm.
I don't know.
He was adopted by Austrian immigrants, Stephen and Anna Kallinger, and they were actually extremely abusive. He was said to have been locked in closets, forced to kneel on rocks, commit self-injury, burned with irons.
What?
Mm-hmm. He was beat with belts, and one of the worst things was forced to consume his own excrement.
Oh, right. Yeah. God.
Yeah, he had to eat his own shit. Oh. At the age of 6, the abuse was so severe that he developed a hernia, which required him to get surgery.
He was only 6.
At 6 years old. And his parents, because they're evil, and unlike, normal parents, they didn't show him any type of empathy. And instead of giving him, care and, being nice, which you would do to your child, they had surgery.
Or any child.
Exactly. They taunted him when he returned from the hospital and told the doctor that told him that the doctor fixed his little bird. They were basically telling him that his thing wouldn't work anymore.
He was 6.
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you tell a child?
Was there molestation? I'm sure there was.
Not by his parents, but we'll get there.
Oh, man.
So his parents were so strict that they banned him from enjoying typical childhood activities like playing outside. I mean,
look, I was kept inside plenty of days, looking like that Kermit meme on the window.
Exactly.
Looking outside, like, save me.
When I read that, I was like, well, his parents are immigrants. We're not allowed to go outside as immigrant children. But, yeah, so he wasn't allowed to do that. And at the age of 8, he was hit in the head with a hammer by his adopted mother for asking to go on a field trip to the zoo.
What the fuck did he do?
Fuck did he do?
I'm sorry.
The fuck did he do in your Glock of duty?
God damn.
So instead of being allowed to, do those childhood activities, he was required to work in the family's shoe shop. And
say that 5 times.
Shoe shop.
All right, never mind. Damn.
Yes.
Am I the only one struggling with that?
After school and on weekends, he was forced to work in the shop. They wanted him to learn the trade so that he would one day take over the family business. And that's how
like Coco.
Yeah, they made shoes. Yeah, Coco wasn't allowed to go listen to music or do music.
And he had to work at the shoe shop.
I mean, at least he didn't become a killer. But, you never know.
Twisted Disney.
But this is how he got his nickname as the Shoemaker.
Ah.
Because he did take over the business eventually, and that was what his trade was.
He was a cobbler.
A cobbler, yes.
Ah, see? My white knowledge.
And that name alone is kind of creepy, like cobbler.
I just think of like peach cobbler.
Okay, well, if you think of it that way, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
But I think cobble, like you're gonna like hit someone over the head or some shit.
Oh, is that what that is?
I believe so. Don't quote
Is there
me.
like is an underlying meaning to cobbler? Were they like assassins?
No, but you do. I think you beat a shoe. Like you have to beat the nail.
Oh, I don't know shit.
Okay. Anyway, where was I at? So yeah, they wanted him to learn trade. So in 1947, the same year he was hit in the head, he was sexually molested at knife point by 3 older boys while they were trying to make it home after running errands for his parents. Since he was afraid of what the repercussions would have been for him not coming straight home, he never told his parents. I know that pain too. So.
Yep.
Immigrant problems.
It's like you could literally just have been like fucked up, literally, and you're just like, I got to get home. Like, I don't care. You shot me. I'm gonna go home shot without this finger or something like that. But I need to get home.
I remember I got my first car and I was late coming home, and because someone sideswiped me, so I'm like shaking.
You're more terrified.
And traumatized. Instead, I got yelled at for being late, and I was just looking at this was my stepfather. So I was looking at him just like, nigga, I almost died. Like, like you worried about me being late.
But I don't think a lot of people understand that, because I know plenty of times, like, when I've had friends that, like, their parents are a lot more liberal or, like, more open to them being out at all hours of the night, I'm, like, panicking, like, having a full-on panic attack.
Yep.
I got to go home.
Excuse me,
I will
I need to
walk
leave.
home. I'm
Yes.
gonna hitchhike, and I don't fuck with hitchhikers, but I'm gonna hitchhike my ass home because I need to be home.
I'm more afraid of my parents than dying.
Yes.
That's exactly
I really am. Like, if I die on the way, at least I don't have to go home late.
Exactly. I know exactly how that is.
Pain. Yeah.
So he never told his parents, but I just kind of feel like even if he did tell his parents, the way they treated him after his surgery, they probably would have taunted him even more. So at the age of 10, he started stealing money from his parents so that kids would hang out with him, tempting them by buying movie tickets.
Oh, shit.
And when his parents caught him, they would punish him by burning his fingers on the stove as punishment. And though the punishment, I'm sorry, I have to retract you guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, they would burn his hands for punishment, and their reasoning was to burn the demon death out of the fingers that steal.
Burn your own fingers. Burn your own, like, brains. What?
Yeah. So, and though the punishment was gruesome, he continued this behavior and dealt with the punishment each time he was caught. He wasn't very good at stealing if he keep getting caught. Well, they never said if he had any siblings or not, so, I mean, maybe it was just obvious that he was doing it. I don't know.
It's like, who else could do it?
So, as a teenager, about the age of 15, he became interested in theater, and he disobeyed his parents' wishes and, like, pursued it. But but eventually they gave in, and they actually allowed him to attend practice on weekends. This is where he met his first girlfriend, Hilda Birdman. And I spelled it like Birdman.
Oh my god. That's not how it's spelled?
Well, I think it's men. I don't know, bruh. Look. But anyway, his parents didn't like their relationship and the sexual nature of it, but he ignored his parents and continued to date her. So by the age of 17 in 1952, he dropped out of school and married Hilda, and they moved on to have 2 children together. 2 children. The marriage ended in 1956 due to domestic violence. And soon after, he was hospitalized due to stress related complications, such as like severe headaches and loss of appetite. And the doctors believed it was because of the stress of the divorce. So on April 20th, 1958, he married his second wife, Elizabeth, and they had 5 more kids.
Lord.
Yep. So he had
Pull-out game weak as fuck.
Well, clearly your parents lied to you about the doctor because it still worked.
It still worked. He probably thought, you know what, I'm shooting blanks or something. It don't work, don't worry.
That's probably where that abuse came from. She was probably like, bitch, you cheating on me.
Oh my God.
Okay, sorry, I've gone too far.
Oh my God.
I've gone too far.
Problematic.
So they had more kids, and he attempted to be a good family man, keeping his job at the family business and attending the kids' activities, but his mental state began to deteriorate. Okay?
I could see this coming.
A mile away. So we'll get into his mental state and the crimes.
Excellent.
So, 1958, he committed his first act of arson. So, he was an arsonist. He set the family home on fire for $1,600 in insurance money. And apparently, he did it 4 more times over a 9-year span. Yep, over a 9-year span. In 1959, he was committed to a mental hospital for a suicide attempt.
Damn.
In 1972, he was arrested on child abuse charges because he had branded his oldest daughter with a hot utensil.
Jesus.
This was done as a punishment for running away.
Well, I feel like I'd be in the same shoes had I run away. My parents caught me.
I don't know if I would have been branded, but they would have whooped my ass. I'm just saying, whooped my ass.
Look, I don't know. I never tried it.
I never tried it either. I was too shook.
The fear, exactly.
Right. So, 2 of his older children also reported abuse, which led to his arrest. He got out of standing trial because he was said to be incompetent with an IQ of 82.
Damn.
and a paranoid schizophrenia. I really need to look into this IQ scale because I want to know like what is really considered low.
I tried looking at it because my case talks about it a lot, but it wasn't really helpful. I feel like every site I looked at had like different ranges, and it was just kind of like if you're below like 100, you're stupid. For lack of a better word, yes. And then like the range of like genius like changed between like all the different sites that I looked at. So I was just kind of like, it is what it is.
Right.
If your IQ sounds low, then we're just going to assume you're kind of
stupid.
Touched.
Bless his heart. So it was suggested by a state-appointed psychologist that he should be supervised while with his family.
I agree.
Yeah. But it says also
Did
that...
the police fuck up again?
Nah. That the kids later recanted what they said, and he was released.
Damn.
Yeah. So, by 1974, he began hearing voices.
Oh, man.
One of which was God.
Mm-hmm.
He said...
Tell me more.
He said... This is where it gets a little wacky, bro. He said the voice came from a disembodied floating head that followed him around, who he named Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can think about was that little kid. They was like, "Ow, Charlie, that hurt." When he bit his finger.
Charlie, you bit me.
Yeah. So the voice that he was hearing, Charlie, was ordering him to kill young boys and chop off their genitalia.
Oh my God. Damn, Charlie, what the fuck?
All right, what's your problem, Charlie, man?
Charlie, you psycho.
So he claimed to be in contact with both God and Satan, and that they wanted him to bring about Armageddon and take out all of mankind.
By himself with an IQ of what?
82. So he's supposed to be...
God had a lot of faith in him.
I mean, they say everybody got their...
I mean, come on now. You look in the mirror, bro. You didn't say, like, you know what, God... You might have the wrong one here. The wrong one.
I just find it hard to believe that God was like, "Hey, son, I want you to murk everybody on the planet." It's just weird. So, in July of that same year, he recruited his 13-year-old son, Michael, to help him carry out his plans.
Oh, so this was like a father and son shit?
Mm-hmm. In July of that same year... Oh, no, I just said that. Sorry, guys. So, his first victim was a 10-year-old boy named Jose Palacio.
Oh, Jose.
He was Puerto Rican.
Oh, my peoples. Well,
our peoples.
Latino.
But every Puerto Rican dude I knew name was Jose.
Really? I don't think I've ever met a Puerto Rican Jose.
Really?
All the Jose's I know are like Salvadorian or Central American.
Even, remember my mom's friend that came over that time we were there? His last name is Rodriguez.
Oh, his name is Jose. Oh, then that's the first Jose, the Puerto Rican Jose I've ever met.
Yeah, that's Jose. Okay, so Jose Palacio was his first victim. He was only 10 years old.
Oh,
Joseph and his son lured the little boy into a factory where they tortured and severed his genitals and asphyxiated him to death.
Poor baby.
I know. So you should have saw his picture. He was so cute.
I don't know if I want to look at it.
So in August of 1974, the next victim was his own son.
What?
Yep. He killed his own son. Not the one that's been helping him, but another son.
Damn.
So his 14-year-old son, Joseph Jr. She killed your own junior. Yep.
Did he chop off his?
No. Oh. He did. He left that alone. So he was said to have attempted to kill him several times before.
Yo, what the fuck?
But finally, he was able to drown him with the assistance of Michael.
Michael was like, "This is for every motherfucking time you took my damn toy."
Right?
But did his mom not like... You're not going to protect your son from... What?
I didn't find anything on any of his wives, but I'm sure it was like a lot of these other cases where they're like, "I didn't know."
You don't know your husband trying to kill your child multiple times.
I would have been like, "Mom, this nigga trying to kill me, so
look
like,
at this.
Can you help me? Help me out."
In a chokehold the whole time. I'm like, he's trying to kill me.
Ma, help me, Ma, please. Like,
what?
I just don't. Help me, please. I don't get it. But so they drowned him and then they dumped his body at a demolition site in Philadelphia where they live. Mm-hmm. So Joseph was not arrested due to the lack of evidence. This to the lack of evidence, and they were saying his death was not determined at the time. So he took out a large claim of $45,000 in an insurance policy. But because the insurance company, not the federales, the insurance company suspected foul play, they refused to pay out his money.
You mean to say the cops fucked up?
The cops fucked up.
What a surprise.
So it was said that Kallinger, whatever.
Kallinger?
Kallinger.
I don't know. English is weird because sometimes it's like you pronounce the G, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's like a look.
Look, it's two L's in here, so you lucky I didn't pronounce it the Spanish way, okay?
Kallinger.
Reported his son missing himself.
What?
Yeah, stating that the boy ran away. But other than that, he didn't cooperate in the investigation at all.
Of course.
Right. So in an interview, when asked about killing his own son, he said he was a sacrifice.
What?
Yeah. And that he was supposed to murder 3 million people.
I mean,
I don't know how he was going to do that, but
I want to see the faces of those people when he said that. Like, did they laugh? Or they like...
This is why we don't have these jobs. So we probably would have been falling out on the floor, dying laughing.
Side eye, like,
Or text each other, girl, listen what this motherfucker just told me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That probably would have been it.
Right. So on November 22nd, Joseph and Michael broke into a home in Lewinow, New Jersey. But no one was home, so they moved on to another home where they found Joan Cardi, where Joseph sexually...
Playboy Cardi?
Your Cardi.
I'm sorry, that's fucked up. Is that fucked up?
Yeah, because she's dead, son.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But Joan Cardi was there, and Joseph sexually assaulted her after tying her up to a bed.
Joseph the son? No, the
father.
Sorry.
The father.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So 2 weeks later, back in Pennsylvania, they broke into a home where they found 5 women playing bridge. And they held them hostage, robbing them of $20,000 worth of cash and jewelry.
Shit.
Yeah, they had that guala.
I mean, they're playing bridge.
Yep. And one woman was said to have had her breast cut.
Oh.
Then they headed to Homeland, Maryland.
What?
Maryland.
They came out here?
Yeah, they came out here. Well, I don't even know how close this might be far out.
Yeah, that sounds like out in
the boonies.
Trump country.
And held Pamela Jaski at gunpoint, forcing her to perform oral sex on Joseph. So she had to give up the toppy with a gun to her head.
I'm not victim blaming here. I'm not. I'm just saying, if anyone forces me to suck their dick, I'm biting that shit off. I'm biting that shit off.
You're just gonna have to kill me because I'm not putting just anybody's dick in my mouth.
I'm gonna put it in my mouth to bite it off.
But what if you catch the head because of the blood and shit?
True shit. I'm not, but like...
I mean, because I don't want houses in Virginia, so...
You don't want what? Oh, HIV? I was like, what's wrong with houses in Virginia?
Just went right over your head.
I was like, I live in Virginia.
You got totally offended.
Nah, I'm gonna bite your dick off. Look, it's either that or take a bullet to the head.
Yeah, I guess they can give you prep or something when you get out
Yeah, I
there.
mean, I can survive it. Use condoms for the rest of my life.
Who wants to do that?
Look, it's either that or a bullet to the head.
Okay, sorry guys. Safe sex is the best sex, but...
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
No, it's like the best way not to catch anything.
Oh, true.
But pleasure-wise, it's not the best.
Look, pull out game. Strong, shout out, babe. You know who you are.
Okay. So let's go back to this. So on October 6th, they repeated the same crime in Dumont, New Jersey to Mary Rudolph. On January 8th, 1975, the stream of crime that they did would come to its end in Leonia, New Jersey. Leonia? Leonia?
Leonia.
Jersey. At at the DeWitt Roman family home.
They sound rich.
Yeah, they got hyphens in their names and shit.
Roman.
So, they forced their way into their home. And they held 28-year-old Edwina Dee Roman Wiseman and her 3-year-old son and her 90-year-old grandma hostage.
Damn.
Yep. And they held them hostage at gunpoint and knife point. So they had both. Joseph stripped both Dee Dee and her son naked, bounding them to the bed, and went to steal her jewelry. Soon after, Dee Dee's sister Randy comes home. Dee Dee. Her sister Randy come home and was taken hostage as well. They demanded money from her and bound her to the bed. She warned the pair, that more people were coming to the house, but Joseph was prepared. 3 others arrived to the house. Dee Dee's mom, another sister, and her boyfriend. They were also bound, gagged, and held hostage.
Damn.
I'm trying to figure out how they overpowered all these people.
Probably with a gun and a knife.
Well, duh. You're right. While they were searching the home for valuables, someone knocked on the door. It was the grandma's nurse. 21-year-old Maria Fashing.
Oh, baby.
I know. She was taken hostage, and she and the boyfriend were forced to go into the basement. The boyfriend of the sister.
Oh.
There, Maria's throat was slit in an attempt to keep the boyfriend from trying to escape.
Oh, my God.
I think his name was Fred. I'm not sure, but I believe that's what they said. But yeah, they slit her throat to keep him from escaping. And while that was going on, Dee Dee, who was upstairs, they forgot to tie her hands, so she managed to crawl out the front door and scream for help.
Good job.
So Michael told his dad, like, it's hot, we gotta go. And they fled the scene and got on the city bus. And as they were fleeing...
They fled on the city bus.
Yes, on a slow-ass city bus.
Imagine trying to do that here in D.C.
You'd be caught 10 seconds.
You'd be waiting for the bus. Like, God damn, it's 40 minutes late. Oh, my God.
Or the metro. That'd be even worse.
Oh, my gosh.
So...
Might as well just Uber your way out.
Right. So, as they were fleeing, they dumped the weapon and a blood-stained T-shirt. Like out and about. Yeah. So it didn't take long now we're into like the arrest and the conviction.
Okay.
So it didn't take long for authorities to arrive to the home. And since the Kallingers didn't do a good job of covering the tracks, investigators had both physical evidence and eyewitnesses, some of which reported seeing them flee and board the city bus. So the T-shirt and the weapons and a few other items such as a blue-faced man's watch, a leather knife sleeve, a blood-stained knife, and a .32 caliber revolver, and also some jewelry, was found by the police.
So what's the point of stealing jewelry if you're just gonna toss it?
Thank you. So the T-shirt, they used the T-shirt to track down the guys. By a laundry and manufacturer's label, which I didn't know you could do that. Like it's like limited edition stuff.
I mean, I guess back in the day it wasn't like
mass production.
Yeah, like now.
Okay. So because only one person was killed in the final attack, they had more eyewitnesses to pin the murder on them. So the stolen item. Now, there were also stolen items found in the apartment of Kallinger, along with other unspecified evidence linking them to the DeWitt and Romaine home. So, on January 17th, the police arrested Joseph. He was held on a $100,000 bail. Michael and another son, 11-year-old James, on the charges of kidnapping, rape, burglary.
So he had 2 sons helping him?
No. They said that James was later released once they figured out that he wasn't the son involved.
They just knew that there was like a son, so they just grabbed him.
Yeah, probably like the 2 oldest boys or something like that. Well, the ones that were left.
Yeah. He killed one.
Yeah. So in jail, Joseph's mental health became worse, and he began to behave erratically. He was saying things like he's been alive for over 100 years as a butterfly. I'm sorry.
Under my umbrella.
I mean, umbrella is even worse, but he was saying a butterfly. I don't know how it got umbrella. And was on a mission from God, which we mentioned before. He also attempted suicide several times. This man attempted suicide a lot. So this comes up a lot throughout this.
What the next few words I'm about to say may be problematic to some, but I have to say it. Mm-hmm. How do you fail at committing suicide over and over again?
Because he ain't really want to die.
Thank you.
I feel like he was doing it for attention.
You know, thank you. This is why we are BFFs, because you understand me.
I love you for life.
We got each other here.
So during his first trial, a psychologist diagnosed him as schizophrenic, which we already knew before, but said he was competent enough to stand trial. So he didn't convince the jury that he was insane because the case against him was too strong. Yeah. So he was found guilty on September 18th, 1975 for burglary, robbery, and kidnapping. He was sentenced 30 to 80 years in prison. So while awaiting his second trial, his behavior, because that trial was for the murder of Maria Fasching. So his second trial, his behavior started getting even more extreme. He would block toilets, collect cups of pee, and put them under his bed to later throw them along with poo at the guards. So yeah. It was reported that he spent most of his day rolling on the floor of his cell and howling.
Excuse me?
Yeah, howling. So Joseph told a psychologist that Charlie, he's back.
Charlie?
Right. Would tell him what to do and even kicked him out of his bed and made him sleep on the floor. He attempted suicide a few more times, one time using a plastic mattress cover, and other times cutting his wrist. He wasn't very successful as they were superficial cuts.
Ugh.
On October 13th, 1976.
Did he finally commit suicide?
No. He started his second trial for the murder of Maria Fasching and the crimes done at the DeWitt Roman home. His erratic behavior was said to have worsened at this time and had to be removed from the courtroom due to his destructive conduct. This didn't help his case at all because no one believed him. And he was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life on October 14, 1976. Okay. So, here's a little bit more information in the afters.
The afters.
The afters.
The after party.
After the party, it's the hotel lobby.
Yep, the midnight snackaroo.
So, he was committed to a mental hospital in 1976 after numerous violent incidents, some of which included stabbing another inmate and trying to strangle another. Shit. And also including more suicide attempts, including trying to set himself on fire. Yeah.
Attempting to set himself on fire? I'm sorry. All these attempts. Look, if I was one of these, like, prison guards or nurses, I would have been like, you know what? I'm gonna help you out. Because I'm getting sick of your shit, motherfucker.
But see, all of this happened because they kind of fucked up. Because when he first got locked up, he was put in what's called the hole. Mm-hmm. You know, like segregation? Yeah, or like, what is it? Solitary confinement.
Segregation. That was stupid. I'm sorry. Look, these... What is it? Strongbow apple cider shits. I'm sorry. Isolation. Solitary.
Solitary confinement. So he was put there, but then he was allowed to transfer the gym pop at his request. Like, so you allowed a crazy well, I guess no one believed he was crazy. And he was put to work in the prison shoe shop. He worked there for a few months before the mentioned attacks happened, and he went on a hunger strike afterwards. So that's when they moved his ass to the crazy place. So March 26, 1996, he died of heart failure and a seizure at the age of 60. So
he made it to 60?
Right. I'm like, how many suicides? I mean. So let's talk about Michael, because we haven't really talked about Michael. Yeah, I was going
to ask him, yeah.
So during the second trial for Maria Fasching in 1976, he was deemed by the court to be under the control of his father. So he got a lighter sentence. He was sent to a reformatory school, then released to the care of foster parents, those poor people, and placed on probation until he was 21. So they said that he hasn't been heard from since he changed his name and moved out of the state. So no one knows where this man is.
So this man is out free?
Yep.
Could be your neighbor, Nia. Shit, could be my neighbor.
I don't live next door to no white people. So.
Oh my God, but I do.
I mean, this is what I don't get. Like, I understand that kids are a little different when it comes to locking them up and things like that.
But he wasn't like 2 or 3.
Exactly. So I'm just like, you're putting him back out in the world. Well, who's to say he's not going to do this again when he gets older?
Yeah, because at this point, it's like he's already practiced it. He's just perfecting his... I wonder if, like, later in life, he was like... He went on to do more murders. But no one really knows because he changed his name, or no one bothered to look into it, or
see, that's what I'm always...
to a different country.
Those are things I always curious about.
All these motherfuckers be moving to like Asia or like Latin countries because it's so much easier, and like just be taking advantage of everybody. Because
even like some of those shows that that we watch, they have some about like childhood murderers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, okay, yeah, I know they're kids, so maybe they do get out at a certain point, but I feel like they should be monitored the rest of their life if you're going to let them out. Because you don't never know.
Yeah, because it's like, imagine, like, we know that a lot of these serial killers have gone through trauma as children, and that affected them, and that could have attributed to them being who they are now. So it's like, how do you think that, like, you don't think that this child going through, like, being a serial killer, basically, like, you can't just, like, turn that off. It's not like you can just forget about it one day. Like, that's with you for the rest of your life. That's something that, and I feel like, to an extent, maybe, it's like, you had to have, like, maybe liked it a little bit to keep up for so long, or to do so many things.
Maybe he was terrified of his father and felt like if he didn't do what he was being asked to do, something would happen to him.
And it's so hard to, like, put yourself in those shoes, because it's like, of course, I could sit here and be like, I could never do that, but I've never been in that situation as a child.
Right. And I'm thinking they said he was arrested for abusing his children, and he was abused.
True shit.
So it could have been a repeat cycle, and again, Michael probably just felt like, look, I just got to do this while my dad's going.
But it's like at the point where, like, your brother's being killed, like, you don't think, like, you know.
That's probably why he kept going along with the shit. He's like, I'm next. I don't know, but I just feel like it still has to have some long-lasting, like, damage.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, look at his dad and how his childhood was.
Exactly. And it's like, that has to play some part of it. Again, like, there's always that whole nurture versus nature argument of, like...
I wonder if him getting hit in the head by his adopted mom had something to do with it.
I feel like the more we read and look into it, a lot of, like, these serial killers have had some sort of, like, head trauma.
Yeah, and then they link into a lot of football players too. Like, they become violent.
CTE.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know of any. I don't think any of them are serial killers, but they do become violent.
Well, there was that wrestler who killed his family and his son. He killed his wife and his son, and he had CTE, but they didn't discover it until afterward.
Damn, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to sports like that. So.
But it's like, I've seen like a couple documentaries about it, about like the whole CTE, and it's like they have the thoughts in their head of like hurting people around them and hurting themselves. So it's like, maybe.
Interesting.
I feel like it's all, I don't know. I feel like it has to do with like nature, but also like the things around you might
make a difference here.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of people who have done like these type of contact sports for like decades and they don't react that way. So
exactly.
It's just funny how different things affect people differently.
Exactly. I think it has a lot to do with like how strong of a person you are, maybe.
Yeah.
And like maybe if you can like fight those thoughts and feelings or whatever. I don't know. We may never know. I feel like it's an argument that's been had since like the whole profiling of serial killers.
Probably. Okay, so it's your turn.
My turn. Okay, so we are going to look into Gary Heidnik, aka the People Collector, also from Philadelphia. And interestingly enough, this is actually what inspired the character Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. I don't know if you've ever watched that.
Sure haven't.
So I just recently watched it. I think we should watch it because this is a murder podcast. But I just recently watched it, and it was very creepy. Very creepy. Of course, like, I'm sure, like, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was, like...
more scary,
super like traumatic to watch and everything, but now that like there's so much worse out there that it's just like, nah, I could take it.
That's how I feel when I go and watch those old black and white horror movies, and you can see like the string and everything else, and I'm like, y'all thought this was scary?
Exactly. I feel like that's what it's like the same thing, but you should definitely watch it. And I feel like the more I read into this, the more I definitely saw a connection between this and like that character in the movie.
When you said People Collector, I don't know why I thought of that song Purple People Eater.
I've never heard that.
I'll hit you later.
Is it like rap or what?
No, it's some old Yakubian shit. But
oh, then I definitely don't know.
But it's funny. I feel like they play it for kids now. Like, it's just...
What?
Yeah, because it's like, it's not like something serious.
Oh.
Yeah.
The People Collector reminded me of The Bone Collector.
That too.
Yeah, that movie was awesome. Freaking shout out Denzel Washington. The GOAT. Okay, so we're going to get into my case.
Okay.
Of course, per usual, I'm going to start with the backstory of this motherfucker. So, Gary Heidnik, I don't know if this is how you pronounce it, but this is how I'm going to pronounce it, was born on November 22nd, 1943 in Eastlake, Ohio. Heidnik's parents were divorced due to his mother's alcoholism, so broken family. As a result, Heidnik and his younger brother, Terry, went to live with his father, who later remarried. During later interviews with Heidnik, of course, after like all this came out and he was in jail, he claimed that his father was emotionally abusive. So Heidnik was a bedwetter, which, as we know, is one of the signs of serial killers.
Don't they say little boys wet the bed longer than
I don't know, because my brothers never bet the bed. Never wet the bed. And I never wet the bed either. Maybe like once because I drank too much water, but it was never like a repetitive thing.
Yeah, me either. I recall doing it once that I can remember, but...
Yeah, and I don't feel like it was like a full-on pee. It was just like a little bit, and then I caught myself and ran out.
I remember, because I probably was a little too old for this shit, but I had a dream that I was watching whatever that show is with Tim the Toolman Taylor. I can't remember. It's probably, you don't know, but...
Nope.
I had a dream I was watching that, and one of the characters went to the bathroom.
And you went to the bathroom?
Yeah, and I was at my grandma's house, and I had to wake up, and, like, I was so scared to wake her up because my grandparents kept their bedroom door closed, and my grandma was real strict about not bothering them.
You might catch them doing...
Right. Well, ew. Not my grandparents. But she doesn't sleep well, so she was always very strict about not bothering them, and I had to knock on the door, and I was, like, terrified. I was like, do I just sit in this? Or do I knock on the door? But go ahead.
You would have been a different person had you walked into some of that.
Ew.
All right. So Heidnik was a bedwetter, and his father would punish/humiliate him by hanging his soiled sheets out of the bedroom window for everyone to see.
Like Border Boy?
I've never watched that movie.
What?
I've never watched that movie.
Oh my God.
So I don't know but actually, like, so my mom, like, her childhood was pretty, like, fucked up as well, and she was a bedwetter, and her mom used to do the same thing. My mom isn't a serial killer. Shout out to mommy. I love you. You're the best person ever. We're a team. Yeah, but, okay, so he would humiliate him, and, like, so Heidnik later said in his interviews that his dad would actually, like, dangle him out of, like, the bedroom window by his ankles.
What?
Yeah, as part of, like, the humiliation. Again, this is all, like, what Heidnik said after his arrest. There's no, like, corroboration, or, like, evidence that this actually happened.
Okay.
But, I mean, as we see with a lot of serial killers, we can't really, like, question whether they're abused. Like, I'm sure a lot of them were.
Yeah.
So, while still a young child, goddamn, better spill that drink.
Don't worry about me.
While he was still a relatively small child, Heidnik fell from a tree. Now, so he fell from a tree, he smashed his skull and suffered a misshapen cranium, which is believed to have caused his behavioral abnormality. Now, I feel like his dad was dangling him out of the window and dropped him.
That makes more sense.
This is what logic says to me, not like...
Because most times when parents abuse their kids, when they take them to the hospital, they say something completely different.
Exactly. So it's kind of like...
Do we believe you?
Exactly. So he already has 2 signs out of like the 4 that we associate with serial killers, which, if you don't know, are bedwetting, animal abuse, arson, and head injuries. So 2 out of 4, 50% chance. They
don't consider sexual abuse one too?
I don't think so, because there's a lot of kids who have been sexually abused and they don't. And a lot of them, there's like a handful, or I can't say percentage wise, but there was a lot that weren't sexually abused. Mm-hmm. But
I just feel like that comes up a lot when we're doing these research.
This is true. I feel like it comes up a lot more of like when it's sexual in nature.
True.
So now we're going to move up a little bit to when he is 17 years old. He dropped out of high school. Heidnik dropped out of high school and enlisted in the army. He served in the army for 13 months. He was actually found to have an IQ of 148, which is like genius levels. And his drill sergeant said that he was excellent, and like people in like from the high school and stuff, he was like a great student. So there was no negative things to say. Once he like finished his time in the army, he was sent to San Antonio, Texas to be trained as a medic. And he did well through his training. Again, no one said anything bad about him or like his learning abilities or whatever. But he didn't stay in San Antonio very long. He was transferred to West Germany to a surgical hospital, which...
A surgical hospital?
In West Germany.
In Germany?
During World War II, I want to say.
Okay!
Yeah.
That was scary
maybe not
enough.
World War II. No, because he was born in the 40s.
Oh.
So, but still, West Germany back in the day, like
they still kind of scare me. I'm sorry.
Look, we have every right to say that. So August 1962, Heidnik began complaining of severe headaches, dizziness, blurred vision, and nausea while he was in Germany. Mm-hmm. A hospital neurologist diagnosed Heidnik with gastroenteritis.
Okay.
But noted that he actually displayed symptoms of mental illness, for which he prescribed stelazine, which is an antipsychotic. So
damn,
yeah,
you just jumped at that. I do know they say a lot of people who have super high IQs often have mental issues too.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
A lot of people.
I feel like there's no in between. Like it's either you have like really low. Maybe the in between is normal.
I'll tell you something, but I don't want to say it on air. I'll explain like after.
Is it too problematic?
Nah, it's a little bit too personal to be putting on the thing. But yeah, like a lot of people who, especially schizophrenia, they attach it to super high IQs.
But your boy from the one, he had low IQ and he had schizophrenia.
I mean, there's always an exception to everything, right?
True. Or maybe it's like super low, super high.
Maybe.
We'll never. Well, maybe we'll know. If you know, let us know.
I mean, if you're a psychologist and you want to come on the pod,
correct us.
Right.
All right. So October 1962, Heidnik was transferred to a military hospital in Philadelphia. Dun dun dun. Where he was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder and honorably discharged from military service. Shortly after his discharge, Heidnik became a licensed practical nurse and enrolled at the University of Pennsylvania, only to drop out after one semester. Which, surprise, surprise, I did too.
What are you saying?
He worked as a psychiatric nurse at a veterans administration, which he has mental illness and he's working at him. You know, it's like the irony.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's kind of ironic. But he was fired for poor attendance and for rude behavior towards patients. So I guess, you know. Which, it's like, you're there. Why don't you seek some help? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
That's what he did.
Dun, dun. So from August 1962 until his arrest in March 1987, Heidnik was in and out of psychiatric hospitals. Mm-hmm. He had attempted suicide at least 13 times.
Yo.
Again.
It's a lot of suicide on this podcast.
Yep.
Oh, this episode.
In 1970, so he actually had like a history of mental illness in his family. His mother, who again was an alcoholic, and which is why his parents divorced, was diagnosed with bone cancer, and suffering the side effects of alcoholism. She committed suicide by drinking mercuric chloride.
What is that? Bleach?
I don't know. Google. What is mercuric chloride? Is a chemical compound of mercury and chlorine with the formula whatever. Look, it kills you. Okay. His brother Terry, remember Terry, also spent time in a mental institution and attempted suicide multiple times as well. So it runs in the family. So October 1971, Heidnik started a church called the United Church of the Ministers of God. Exactly. So when he started it in 1971, he only had 5 followers, but by 1975, he grew to 50 followers, and he actually had like an account with Merrill Lynch, which was like is a big banking company. It still exists to this day. And he initially deposited $1,500. Again, this is in 1970, the 70s. So of course, like $1,500 back then was a lot more than it is now. But eventually he actually amassed over $500,000. Again, this was in the 70s. So in today's money, it would be like 2.3 mil.
Yo.
And he had a Rolls Royce at like...
Oh, he was whipping.
He was crazy. So, this was like a little side fact because I didn't find much about the church. So it was just kind of like, I guess this was his hobby. Right. Kill people and pray. Yeah, exactly. What's new? So in 1978, we're going to get this is like a quick preview as to what's to come. So of course, like with all of this, it's kind of like it's when they're like, what is it? Getting their feet wet with like dabbling in murder and all of that.
Testing it out.
Exactly. Testing the waters.
Yes.
Exactly. So Heidnik had been dating Ann Jeanette Davidson, and she was actually mentally disabled. She had an IQ of 48, which is like super low. Okay. And she became pregnant and gave birth to his first child, Maxine, who was taken into foster care.
Right there. All right, Nelly.
She was taken into foster care almost immediately because her mom was like mentally disabled. She couldn't take care of her. The dad, he was also like, it was in his records of like the whole army and stuff. So everyone knew like he couldn't take care of it. She couldn't take care of her. So shortly after the birth of Maxine, Heidnik signed Aunt Jeanette's sister. So he signed his girlfriend, his baby mama's sister, out of a mental institution because both of them were actually in a mental institution. There's a lot of like mentally disabled. But how can
somebody with a mental issue sign somebody else out?
That's the same question I had. This is the 80s, remember?
Oh yeah, you could do
you could do a lot of fucked up shit.
A lot of things.
Exactly. So he signed his baby mama's sister out of the mental institution in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, brought her back to his house where he had lived with Aunt Jeanette. So, yeah, this is confusing. And held her captive in the basement for 10 days, where he repeatedly raped, sodomized, and tortured her.
I knew that was coming. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if I was about to say, I wonder if her sister knew that her sister was in the basement.
I don't think so. I feel like she was taken into care as well. And she wasn't at the house.
Damn, I'm really not shocked.
Exactly. Police found Alberta in a coal bin in his basement, bloodied and terrified. During medical examinations, it was found that she had contracted gonorrhea.
Oh, no.
I know. It's terrible. Heidnik was charged with kidnapping, rape, unlawful restraint, false imprisonment, involuntary, deviant sexual intercourse, and interfering with the custody of a committed person. Now, the original sentence was overturned on an appeal, And Heidnik spent only 3 years in mental institutions. So he spent some time in jail, but most of it was in mental institutions until he was released in April 1983 under quote-unquote supervision of a state-sanctioned mental health program.
And I bet they didn't supervise him.
Hell the fuck no, because as soon as he got out, he was doing some fucked up shit.
Okay, let's get into it.
So October 3rd, 1985, this is 2 years after he was released, Heidnik married Betty Disto, whom he met through a matrimonial service that he had only like corresponded with her by mail. Because this is the 80s, no one really has email.
I mean, well, no one had Google either back then.
No one had shit back then. So
there's no way to like figure out. I guess they could have hired a private investigator or something.
And they had only been like communicating for 2 years before she arrived she was from the Philippines.
Oh, she was a mail order bride.
Yeah, she was a mail order bride, basically.
Why she gotta be Filipino though?
Fuck if I know.
Damn.
So she arrived in September 1985 and they got married a month later. In October.
True.
Shit turned very sour very quick.
Did he lock her in the basement too?
Well, throughout their brief marriage, he forced his wife to watch while he had sex with multiple women, and he would rape and physically assault her numerous times. But in January of 1986, so like only 3 months later, she left him. She got help from like this community, like Filipino community type thing. She got help from them, and she actually reported his abuse, and he was arrested and charged with assault, indecent assault, spousal rape, and involuntary deviant sexual intercourse again. And actually, which this would be unknown to him until years later, but she actually was pregnant with his child.
Oh, wow.
So at this point, he has 2 kids that he doesn't have like any rights to. But I think this was a little boy. But he wouldn't know until she just told him, hey, you have a kid, pay child support. But you can't see him.
That's right, bitch. Money.
So shortly after, in November 1986, I guess they were like, yeah, because she leaves him in January 1986. Oh, no, never mind. November 1986. I'm getting my dates mixed up. So months later, Heidnik captures his first victim, Josefina Rivera. Now, Josefina was a 25-year-old sex worker in downtown Philadelphia. She was a drug addict who was doing sex work to pay for her habit.
Okay.
He convinced her to go back to his house. I think he gave her like $20 for her services. So after they had, I guess, quote-unquote consensual sex, because it's what he paid for, he choked her from behind, put her in handcuffs, and led her downstairs naked to the basement, where he had actually like dug a pit in his basement. And he put her there, and the pit was covered with like a board, like wood, which he like weighed down with other stuff so that she couldn't get out.
Oh, damn.
And had you watched Silence of the Lambs, this is actually like how that guy, Buffalo Bill, keeps like his victims in a pit covered with a wood thing.
Okay.
So you gotta watch it.
All I know is like the references that I see on other things, like the whole thing about lotion and stuff.
Oh, yeah. You wanna know why?
Because he wanted to put lotion on her skin so he could eat her?
No. So like, Buffalo Bill in like the movie, he's like transgender, but he's also very mentally ill, I guess. So his idea of becoming a woman is taking women's skin and making a suit out of it. So the lotion is to keep their skin moisturized for when he takes it off.
Okay.
Yep. You gotta watch it.
I watched some documentary where some men actually, they get these suits made.
Oh my God, yes. It was on TLC. It was like Fetish or Taboo or something like that. I think it was Taboo.
Yeah, and they like, it's literally putting on someone's, it looks like you're putting on someone's skin.
It looks like someone's skin, but it's like silicone.
Yeah, but.
And they're just like sitting there. It looks like a blow-up doll, but there's like a real man inside. There's a grown-ass, probably a Cuban man in there.
Probably all of them, but it was funny because some of them had really realistic looking ones, and the other ones, like you said, look like blow up dolls.
Yeah, but either way, I feel it's like like you do whatever you want to do in the comfort of your own home, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah,
I'm still gonna judge you, but go ahead and
no
do it.
kink shaming.
Well, All right. So shortly after he like had her in the dungeon and had raped her and all that, he actually revealed what his plan was. So he wanted to have kids. Now remember, he has 2 kids that he knows about, but that were taken away from him.
Is that his thing? He just wants, well, since he talks to God, he just wants to spread his seed?
Probably.
Because remember, that's a thing in the Bible?
He has true shit. I didn't even put that together. I'm
That's
not
smart.
a biblical person. So he told her he wanted to have kids. Quote, lots of them. I got kids already, but the state keeps taking them off of me. Well, I got a way now of having kids, so nobody can take them away. You're just the start. You're going to have my baby down here, but not just you. I want to get 10 girls down here so you can have all of my kids. End quote. That's exactly what he said to me. Thank you. Or just like get in a relationship and like impregnate all these women safely.
Yeah. There's some women that are willing to have 10 kids.
There's a lot of ways to do this.
Without kidnapping, murdering, and keep them in
raping and torturing them.
Yeah.
But again.
It's too much like right.
Mm-hmm. So, about a month later, it is December 3rd, 1986. Heidnik abducts 24-year-old Sandra Lindsay, who... So she had actually... It seems like she dated him and lived in the house for a short while, and she was also mentally disabled. Mm-hmm. And before... Like, when they dated and when she lived in the house... Sandra Lindsay actually became pregnant with his child, but she had an abortion.
Oh, wow.
And so he was angry, and it was, he was about to get payback. So he chained her up right where Josefina was, raped her, tortured her. And so at this point, he has 2 girls down there. Mm-hmm. And he would feed them irregularly. He kept them half naked and would force them to watch each other being raped.
Oh, my goodness.
Sandra Lindsay actually died of starvation, torture, and an untreated fever after being hung by her wrist from a ceiling beam for 2 days.
Damn.
So this is where shit gets a little crazy.
Okay.
So, now this is like after getting some girls, but I feel like I have to say it all together just to not jump back and forth all the time. So he would actually go on to dismember her, boil her head, roast her rib cage, and feed her
to the other girls
in combination with dog food to the other girls that he would later go on to have. Yes, this is yep. And her limbs were in a freezer. So yeah. If y'all saw Nia's face. So
you're forcing cannibalism with other people.
Exactly.
Bruh.
Exactly. So, after Sandra Lindsay's death/roast session, police were actually called to the house after the neighbors reported a bad smell. But, per usual, they didn't find shit. Why, you ask? Because Heidnik said he had fallen asleep and burned a roast he had in the oven. And they said, you know what? Yes, this is what burnt roast smells like.
But roast in a dead body. I mean, they both dead flesh, but like, there's a difference between human and cow.
I've actually heard, and this is gonna sound really sick, but I've heard that like human flesh smells like pork cooking.
I don't want to find out. But I've also heard that pork, like pig or whatever, is more similar to us. In general, like, even the way their brains work are very similar. But
I've also heard of like
bodies too.
Exactly. It's like if you boil her head, that means there's hair, and we all know what burning hair smells like.
Yep.
So it's like there's no excuse for this bullshit. I bet the police didn't even go into the house. They were just like, "Sir, from the yard, did you burn something?"
Because like I've seen like like. As minorities, it don't seem like we have the option to tell them, "Oh, nah, you ain't coming in my house." Because I've seen on several occasions, like especially I don't know if you guys watch Teen Mom, but like on Teen Mom, Janelle and her husband. Somebody called like the police to go do a safety check on the kids, or whatever, and he just stood at the door. And he was like, "I'm not letting you in," and slammed the door in the police's face. Now, had it been one of us, we'd have been dead.
Dead. on site.
But he was just like, nah.
The whole SWAT team would have arrived.
Right. He was like, you're not allowed to come in here. What you want? Like, and that was it. That's how he carried it.
God damn it. White privilege. All right. So 20 days later, December 23rd, 1986, Heidnik sees 19-year-old Lisa Thomas walking in the cold and offers her a ride. He buys her lunch, brings her back to his house, and serves her some wine. But the wine is drugged.
No.
When she wakes up, she had been raped and chained in the basement pit along with the other two girls because Lindsay was still alive at this point. Mm-hmm. Sandra Lindsay was still alive at this point. She was introduced to the other women and raped once again. And then Heidnik made them sandwiches.
Human sandwiches?
No, because the other girl hadn't been dead yet. Well, I don't even know at this point. He could have been like storing some other... Ew!
Sandwiches.
So it's New Year's, 1987. 23-year-old Deborah Dudley was abducted. Now, Deborah wasn't like the other girls. It seems like the other girls were more like, they did what he said. They were like, all right, we're going to do whatever to stay alive. Deborah fought. So during her captivity, she would defend herself against Heidnik and sustained more beatings and more time in the pit than anyone else. Because after he had like 4 girls in the pit already, he had to take them out and keep them in his actual basement and would use the pit as like
punishment.
So because of her attitude and like her fighting ways or whatever, Heidnik actually like made some changes. He actually let them shower more often. He purchased a portable toilet for them to use and tampons and all that because I guess before that they were just like,
ugh.
Yeah.
I always wonder that when they keep them hostages. Like, what happens when they come on their period?
It's like, you don't even let them shower and you're going to rape them every fucking day? You filthy motherfucker. So January 18th, 1987, Heidnik abducts his youngest victim, 18-year-old Jacqueline Askins. Now, during their captivity, the girls were raped, beaten, and given electric shocks. This was like his favorite form of torture. He forced them to have sex with each other while he watched and hung them by their wrists as punishment and all that. Whenever one of the girls disobeyed him, he would force them into that 4-foot deep pit. Mm-hmm. He'd fill it with water, place the wooden board over it, weight it down with stones, and would then like pass an electric current through it.
Oh, damn.
And would electrocute them.
It was only 4 foot deep?
Yeah.
So he was kidnapping a bunch of short women?
I guess so.
We 5-something, so we would have been able to peep over the...
But then again, he's like beating the shit out of them, so it's like...
Oh, they're probably forced to sit
probably
down there.
Probably. So he would do this like repeatedly over and over and over again, I'm sure like daily. So he started realizing that the girls could actually hear him coming down and like could, I guess, like try and hide or mentally prepare or like try and fight him or whatever. So when he figured out that they could hear him coming down, he tied them up with tied their hands and feetsies up, hung them from the beam in the basement, gagged them, and stuck different sized screwdrivers into their ears to burst their eardrums so that they couldn't hear him anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So March 19th, 1987, Heidnik took Deborah Dudley. Did I mention Deborah Dudley? Yeah, okay, so she was the feisty one. I'm sorry, I'm getting myself lost. So he took Deborah Dudley into that pit to electrocute her, but they did it for too long. He did it for too long, and she died.
She probably boiled.
Probably. So he disposed of her body in Pine Barrens, New Jersey, so another state over. So during all of this, the first victim that he had, Josefina, she actually became his, like...
favorite
and also his kind of assistant. So she assisted him in killing Deborah Dudley.
Ooh.
So there's actually interviews on YouTube, if you look this up, of her, like, talking about it. And it's very scary because it kind of seems like she's just, like, not there. Like, she just, like, has no emotion.
She probably had to block all that shit out.
Exactly.
Like, she probably only did it so that it would lessen whatever punishment she got from him.
Exactly. She realized that, like, she started studying him. And she started realizing that what he wanted was companionship. Because he said, like, I want kids. Like, this is why you're here. I want all these kids. And, like, she started realizing that, like, when they misbehaved, he became hurt by them. And that's why he would punish them. He would take it, like, personally. As, like, you're misbehaving because you don't want to be here because you don't like me. Right. So, like, of course, he's like...
Not that I'm terrified of you and you keep raping me.
Exactly. Thank you. So she actually sought to befriend him. And she would try and, like, tell him, like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I know how you feel. Just to, like... I think her survival instincts kicked in. And she was like, look, I either got to play along with this or I'm going to be dead. She gained his trust eventually, and she would actually save herself from, like, the torture. So she wasn't tortured like the other girls or anything like that. She, like, actually witnessed him, like, bursting the other girls' eardrums because she didn't have to go through it herself. Damn. He actually, like, let her upstairs multiple times. Like, she could shower more often. And, like, as sick as this is... But when he raped her, it was more like of a comfortable situation. Oh, so because he trusted her. Exactly. It wasn't like in the pit or in the dirt or whatever. It was more of like probably like on the couch, on a bed or whatever. You're still getting raped. But at the end of the day, it's probably a lot better than like what the other girls had. So later it comes like we can probably say that she developed like a Stockholm syndrome where she kind of grows to care about him. Right. Maybe feel sorry for him and try, like, maybe she did end up, like, understanding him because, of course, she's a sex worker and a drug addict. I'm sure her, like, childhood was not the best. Right. So maybe to some extent she could, like, relate to him. Right. So, March 23rd, 1987, they kidnapped their last victim, Agnes Adams. There's not much information about her, but, I mean, we can just go on and guess that she was raped just like everybody else. Yep. So, March 24th, the next day, 1987, and actually I think Agnes Adams was kidnapped to replace Deborah, who they had killed by accident. Okay. The girl they electrocuted. But Josefina asked Heidnik permission to visit her family because she started realizing that he trusted her a lot because he took her to go kidnap this last girl and to dispose the body of Deborah's body. So it's like she knows she can go out. So she said, you know, I want to go see my family. Can I please talk to them? And he permits it. He says, okay, I'll drive you to a gas station near your house. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to drive you to the same block because they'll see me, but you can walk there. I'll wait for you and you come back. So she doesn't go to her house, of course. She actually goes to a payphone just like a block away from the gas station and calls 911.
And this is Josefina?
This is Josefina.
Okay.
Responding officers noticed the marks on from the chains on her leg and immediately arrested Heidnik, who was still waiting for her at the gas station, like he said.
Yo, these killers that we have are sloppy as shit.
And this motherfucker had an IQ of 148.
Yeah, nigga, you wanted to get caught. You wanted to get... I feel like she was real good at manipulating him.
She was, like, real good at just, like, telling him, you know, I'm not going to do anything. I won't do anything.
I think that's her experience as a sex worker. Because they know how to talk to men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, April 1987, Heidnik attempts to hang himself yet again. Another suicide attempt. In his cell, and this was before his whole trial, everything. He knew shit was going to hit the fan. He knew he was going to go to jail for God knows how long. He knew he was going to be maybe sentenced to death. So he was like, let me try and get this over with. But he failed. So the funny part is, like, during his trial, he tried to claim him and his attorney, which is like, I don't know how defense lawyers do it. Because if one motherfucker comes here, he tried to say that these women were already locked and chained up in the house when he got there. He bought the house with the women in it.
So when you wouldn't have thought to let them go, he must think these people are idiots.
And the defense lawyer must too. Like, how are you going to sit there and be like, yes, it was part of the real estate. It was in the listing. It was in the listing, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a normal thing to find women chained up in the basement and not report it.
Exactly.
or leave them there and keep them alive.
And just keep torturing. Be like, hey, ladies, how did your old guy torture you? I'm gonna just keep up with it since y'all already know.
Let me know if I can do better.
I mean, come on. They tried to claim that he was, mentally unstable and insane and couldn't stand trial like a normal person. Exactly. Mini violin, cue the mini violin. But of course that was unsuccessful because he was filthy rich at this point. He had that Rolls Royce and everything. So clearly
he did have that guava.
Exactly. He had that whole church. So it's like his investors and like that whole banking company was just like, nah, he's smart enough to make all these money moves. Like, he's smart enough to know what's wrong.
Did they ever say if he was ever successful getting any of these women pregnant?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I know high stress can really...
Yeah, so when Sandra Lindsay, the girl he hung up, when she died, he actually realized that she could have been pregnant, and he was like, damn, what a waste. Like, that's literally what he said.
Damn.
But I don't think any of them were pregnant. And if they were, I'm sure they, like, went through abortion. I don't think so. I hope not. Okay, so on July 1st, 1988, Heidnik was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Heidnik was executed by lethal injection on July 6, 1999. So just recently, at Rockview State Correctional Institution in Center County, Pennsylvania. He was the last person executed by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay, so this is one fun afters that I found, because I didn't find much, but I found this to be, like, freaking hilarious, even though it's really messed up. So, like, they had this whole interview, I found, like, an article with a bunch of interview, like, segments from, like, Josefina, his best friend, and, like, attorneys and all that shit. And so, like, his best friend went on to say that all his girlfriends, and this is all quoted, so whatever I just say right now, it's not my own words, it's this motherfucker's. So, all his girlfriends were black and retarded. He said, Heidnik said the blacks treated him better than the whites ever did. He also said he sexually preferred blacks, that they expected less.
What?
Exactly.
But were all these women black?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were all black, and a lot of them were mentally disabled.
And his friend said this?
His friend said
this. I wouldn't be surprised if his friend wasn't down there in that basement dabbling in a little bit of that, too.
Exactly. It's like, excuse me, so you just saw these women as what? Like, so clearly, like, this guy just had a sexual fetish with black women.
I'm not surprised. But...
Exactly. It's just like... So that was the one little fun fact I found about him. I don't know if it was fun, but it's fucked up.
Okay.
So that was our fucked up segments for the week.
Was that all you had on that case?
Yeah, but I think ironically, it's kind of cool that both of ours had a ton of suicide, head injuries. What else?
They both had sexual assault, even though this one was more focused on it.
Yeah, and their IQs played a big role. I think that was, like, coincidentally... Because we didn't plan this out. You changed yours.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so because this was, like, a coincidence.
When I was doing the research, I realized that case wasn't interesting enough.
Oh,
so
really?
then I went back and looked at all the ones that we could choose from. And I was like, fuck that, I'm doing this one.
So yeah, we gotta go find what's popping for this weekend. Back to the grind.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we have any plans this weekend?
No, I mean, like, podcast-wise.
Oh.
For cases. Back to the research. Oh, no, I'm not doing shit. I'm coming to do the podcast, and I'm just going right back to
Yeah, we got to get back to our regular schedule. Even though it's Tuesday, I don't know how much time we're going to have to get everything prepared.
It might just be short and sweet or something like that.
Yeah, are you guys okay with that?
I know you guys miss our voices.
I know. We're going to try our best to be more regular. It's just the summertime. We have a lot going on.
Exactly.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep. So, per usual, thank you for listening.
Thank you for the feedback. Those of you, you know who you are, for giving us feedback.
Yeah, helping us to improve the podcast.
Exactly. We're doing our best. We'd love to hear more from y'all.
Yep.
Let us know. Don't be shy.
Yep. Hit us up via email at AntiSocialMurderClub@gmail.com.
Find us on Twitter
at ASMurderClub or on Instagram, IG
at AntiSocialMurderClub.
Yep. that's where we update most of the time. Let you guys know that we're working on a new episode. It is linked to our Twitter, so if you're following us on Twitter, you'll see it there.
Yep.
And we'll try to use our Twitter more often, just at least to update you guys on what's going on, if should we be late or miss a day.
That's probably a good idea. We should probably be more responsible.
Yeah.
We should be adults and professional.
But I'm just like, I'm an adult any other day. Exactly. I don't want to be an adult today.
With my regular 9 to 5.
Yep. Well, so
thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate us. Let us know.
Subscribe.
Give us 5 stars.
Follow us.
If you don't like us, fuck you. Fuck your mama.
Don't leave bad comments.
Yeah, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Yep, that's what my mama always said.
Isn't that the golden rule?
Yep.
For us, I guess. Who knows? Anyways, y'all have a good rest of the week. We'll be back this weekend. For sure.
Yep, we'll be back. Bye.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.